She screamed over the wind. "Sign the HOA papers now or I'm calling the cops." Snow was coming down so hard it erased the road behind her. Karen stood on my porch like she owned it. Clipboard wrapped in plastic, boots planted deep. I told her, "This isn't HOA land." She laughed and snapped back. "Everything past that sign is ours." Then she raised her phone and shouted, "He's refusing lawful orders and blocking emergency access." A tow truck crawled out of the white fog and stopped sideways across my only road. My truck was already half buried. My kids were inside, watching through the window, quiet and scared. Karen pointed at the road and said, "If you don't join tonight, no one is leaving this property." That's when I knew she wasn't bluffing. She had planned this for the storm. I stayed calm even when she stepped closer and whispered, "People like you don't get a choice." Here, I looked past her at the snow-covered ground where the road dipped just a little lower. She didn't notice it. Most people never do. My hand slipped into my jacket and touched the old folded paper I always carry in winter. I looked back at her and said softly, "You really should have checked who owns the way in before blocking it." Karen rolled her eyes like she'd heard enough. "Owns the way in?" she said loud. "This whole road is HOA access." She snapped her fingers at the tow driver. "Finish the job!" Chains hit metal. My truck jerked. Inside the house, I heard my daughter cry out. That sound flipped something in my chest, but I didn't move fast. I moved smart. A neighbor opened his door across the road and shouted, "Karen, this isn't right!" She shot back. "Go inside. This is HOA business." Then she turned to the phone and said, clear and sharp, "Yes, officer. He's refusing to comply and blocking emergency access during a storm." She smiled at me while she talked, like she had already decided how this would end. The wind pushed snow sideways. The road disappeared again under white. The tow truck wheels spun, then stalled. The driver cursed under his breath. Karen snapped, "Keep trying." I bent down, brushed snow with my boot, and uncovered a flat stone set into the ground, old, solid, marked. Karen noticed and frowned. "What is that?" she asked. I straightened up and said, "That marker means this road crosses my land by easement." She laughed, but it sounded thin. "That's not a thing anymore," she said. I met her eyes and replied, "It is when the deed says it never expired." Karen bent closer, to the stone like she could erase it with her eyes. "You're lying," she said. "Our HOA lawyer would know." She pulled out her phone and tried to call someone, then tried again. No signal. The storm had killed it. The tow driver stepped down from his truck and said low, "Ma'am, I've seen these before." She snapped at him, "Stay out of it." Headlights appeared through the snow. Not one car, two, then a third. They moved slow, careful, like they knew the road well. Karen straightened fast and waved her arms. "Good," she said loud again. "He's the problem." The first man out of the car didn't look at me. He looked at the stone, then at the barrier, then at the tow truck blocking the road. "Who ordered this road closed?" he asked. Karen answered too fast. "I did. HOA authority." The man pulled out a tablet, wiped snow off the screen, and turned it toward the others. Lines and notes showed clear and clean. He said, calm but firm, "This is a recorded easement. Emergency access active." Karen's face drained of color. "That can't be right," she whispered. I stepped forward and said quietly, "My family allowed this road before there were houses here." The man nodded once. "And you can't force membership or block access on an easement." Snow kept falling. The wind howled. Karen looked around and realized no one was on her side anymore. And the night wasn't done with her yet. Karen tried to change her tone. "This is all a misunderstanding," she said, forcing a smile. "We were just trying to keep things safe." One of the men shook his head. "You filed a false report," he said, "and you blocked an emergency easement during a storm." Karen's hands started shaking. She backed up and almost slipped on the snow she ordered, moved earlier. Then she pointed at me again. "He threatened me," she said fast. "He said he'd shut the road down." I didn't answer. I reached into my pocket and handed my phone to the man with the tablet. He tapped once. A video played. Karen's voice was clear over the wind. "If you don't sign tonight, no one is leaving this property. The sound of chains followed. The man paused the video and looked at her. "That's not a threat from him," he said. "That's one from you." The tow driver quietly unhooked my truck and backed away. A neighbor across the road whispered, "She did this to us too." Another voice said, "She always said she owned the road." Snow piled up around Karen's boots as the men stepped closer. One of them said, "We need you to step aside." She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. For the first time all night, she looked small, and that's when she realized the storm didn't trap me in, it trapped her. Karen didn't fight it when they asked her to step away. She just stood there, quiet, while the barrier was pulled aside and the tow truck left. One of the men apologized to me and said, "This road stays open. That's the law." Snowplows moved through soon after, clearing the way for everyone. The storm finally felt smaller. By morning, an official notice went out to every house. No forced HOA membership. No fines, no threats. The easement was marked clear and protected. Karen was removed from the board that same week. No speech, no drama, just gone. Neighbors stopped by later with coffee and thanks. One said, "We didn't know the road was yours." I smiled and said, "It was always shared." My kids went back outside, laughing, safe again. That night, I stood at the edge of the road and watched cars pass quiet and slow. The land was still mine. The choice was still mine. And one thought stayed with me. Freedom doesn't need permission, and it never melts in a storm.